So you can hear yourself slightly in the background.
Unbelievable.
Fired. So
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Rapid Fire Golf, episode 31. Mondays at 5. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone had a good weekend and hopefully maybe a day off today. Hopefully all of you guys aren't out picnicking, partying, and we're going to have some people hanging out. So, yeah, once you guys are in here and ready, you can rock and roll like per normal, ask questions. We'll chat semi-rapid firely. And, yeah, for those of you that haven't been here before, post up your questions. I will answer away. For those that have, you guys know the deal, post up when you're ready, and we will rock and roll. Bob, what's up, man? What's happening? Hello. I'm going to hit one until we get started. Feeling tight. Got hurt. See what my swing looks like. Get my live view rocking. Feels good. Hit it today. Good on the range today. It was nice with it being wet, like a flyer lie. Hey, Eric, how do the wrists work from the takeaway? So you mean like from the takeaway to the top of the swing? I'll just answer it both ways. So during the setup position, from here to the takeaway would be from here to by the time the club gets parallel to the ground and it's in line with my hands. From there to there, I will be adding some amount of hinge. So if I didn't hinge at all, to that point, the club would be here in space. So I add hinge to get it even with my hands. So I'm adding hinge as I go. There'll be a little bit of forearm rotation. If I did no forearm rotation, the club would be here. So there's a little bit of a hinge vertically. There's a little bit of forearm rotation to the point where it gets to here. From there to the top, it's really just a continuation of both of those things. I want to go from the hands in line, or the club in line with my hands, to hands in line with the pec, butt of the club inside ball line, which again requires a continuation of the hinge. There'll be, again, kind of slight forearm rotation from there to the top. How much you do of that really depends on where you want the top to be, kind of more on plane or laid off or a little bit more down the line. But you're gradually adding hinge as you work back. You're gradually adding a little bit of forearm and shoulder rotation depending on what you do. And then how much you change your wrist conditions, grip dependent and kind of player dependent. Most people are going from a cupped left wrist at address to still slightly cupped here and then kind of flattening it from there to the top. And then again, of course, kind of depending upon your grip pattern, the weaker your grip, the more you're kind of adding that flex or that curl at some point during the backswing. The stronger your grip pattern, the more you're keeping that wrist a little bit more cupped to flat to get the face square at the top. So just depends on your grip pattern. David, opinion on one length irons. Yeah, this has come up a couple times and I don't have much of an opinion. I probably had, I always say maybe 10 people over time that have come in with one length irons, and I've tested them on my TrackMan. So they're before clubs that were different length and they're new clubs that are one length. And I haven't seen a huge difference either way. I haven't seen anything overly positive that makes me love it. I haven't seen anything overly negative. So to me, it's hasn't added or taken away much. So I'm kind of neutral on it. I think if someone likes it and it helps them, that's cool, but I don't think it provides any sort of big advantage based on what I've seen. Steve, hey Eric, what is your opinion on not gripping the club with your right thumb and index finger? Yeah, I'm okay with that if you want to do it as a feel or a drill. I think when you make your backswing, if your fingers aren't on the club, it can give you some different feels in terms of where the club head is in space, setting the shaft a little bit differently and how your wrist motions work depending upon what your goal is. So yeah, it can be okay as a drill. I'd say, Steve, what are your what would your goals be with that drill? What would the objective be for you doing that? And we can go from there. Lone Ranger, thank you. In your golf videos, you are very welcome. Happy Bob, had trouble with my bunker shots today. Is a good feel to throw the club head with the right hand? Yes. Like the opposite of compression? Yes. I was leaving the ball in the bunker. Yeah, I would say throwing with your right hand on the way down out of the bunker, which would do what? If I was doing that from here, would make the shaft less forward, would add more loft, and let the club face kind of come back towards you. That absolutely would be an okay feel. Is that going to solve your bunker shots? I don't know. It all depends on why you're leaving them in the bunker. We did that bunker video a couple weeks ago. We did the bunker videos for the site. We'll probably do another bunker masterclass at some point, I would assume. But you can, if you search on here in bunker, you'll see the fundamental videos of what I would say for the setup, in swing, and follow through. If you're leaving them in the bunker, Bob, is it because you're hitting too far behind and they're not getting out, or you're hitting them thin and they're hitting the thin? Like, why are you not getting them out? You know, I would look at how close to the ball am I hitting, have the face open enough, am I hitting close enough to the ball, and do you make a long enough follow through with enough speed into the follow through? Those are going to be the three things I'd check if someone's leaving them in the bunker, again, without seeing anything. Are you hitting close enough to the ball and adding enough speed and length to your follow through? Bernie, 67 years old and golfing a little over a year. How can I drive the ball farther than 180, 190? The things you want to look at to maximize your distance would be increasing club head speed and or hitting more up on the ball. At 67, I would assume your club head speed's not 120 miles an hour like a Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, but there's ways you can increase speed. Things you would look for, again, I'd have to see your swing, Bernie, to say for sure. And for those of you here who don't know before, and when I say on here about seeing your swing, we do have CogornoGolf.com. That's our membership site where you can join and post your swing up. I give you feedback. You get in our community. But I have to see, Bernie, but some things as you get older you want to look for to add speed is make sure you have a big enough turn during the backswing. Let the left heel come up. Let the left knee work in. Let the belt buckle work. Get your upper body turned behind the ball would be number one. You can do some pressure shifting swing direction. I would also check, Bernie, our senior golfer masterclass, because in there, I literally lay all those things out. That might be 40, 50, 60, 70 bucks, 50 bucks or something like that. If you search Podia, and maybe Mary will put a link on here. Mary put a link on for the Senior Golfer Masterclass. We did one video on YouTube as a general senior golfer pattern. In the masterclass, we went over the whole thing and specifically answered that as you are a senior golfer, how do you hit it farther? I went through that all thoroughly. So I would check that out. Check out CogornoGolf.com or on here, search driver distance stuff, speed stuff that I've done, and that'll go through that, Bernie, more thoroughly. Corey, what are the best practice tips for winter when I can't play outside? Try to use TrackMan, take some lessons, work on golf fitness. Yeah, I do all of them. I think the winter time, if you're not going to play, would be where you really put focus on mechanical pieces more so than skill pieces. Especially where we're at here in Pennsylvania, where we kind of have like a 7-month-ish golf season. We do the off season. We would always prioritize with people, especially when I had the kids and we did all year development programs. We would do in season from like April through October was heavy on course time, heavy skill time, heavy short game outside time for those 7 months. And then when we went inside, let's say November through March would be more mechanical. So fixing any swing mechanical stuff, lots of video, lots of TrackMan, lots of mechanics with some skill stuff. Whereas when we went outside, we'd work more skill stuff, more ball pattern, more on course, at least 50% time on course. So yeah, I would do any mechanical stuff you want to do during the winter, maybe do some stuff to add speed if that's something you're looking to do with a super speed or workout programs or TrackMan. Any mechanical stuff you want to go over, grip chain, anything like that I do over that time. You have to make sure you give yourself heavy feedback. So you're recording all of it, practice stations, etc. Not just hitting into a net with no feedback. You hit into a net and not see the ball flight is perfectly great if you have video and you're working on a move. So that's what I would focus on there. I think the elbow position during the backswing you recommend helps. Thank you. Dave, I've been using your impact drill with great success and actually using it when I play. It just goes slightly shorter than a full shot and very straight. Should I only use this in practice? Yeah, you can use it in practice or use it in play, Dave. And then if it goes shorter, just take one more club than normal and use that as like your 3/4 shot. That's like your backup shot. Would be perfectly fine, perfectly allowed to go do that. If it's something you can count on, you hit it, so you know where the ball's going, I would play with that and just take one club more than normal. Perfectly fine. Casey, tips for rolling the takeaway and fixing a reverse pivot. Thanks for all you do. Tips for the rolling the takeaway. Yeah, for sure. Whatever I say in the next minute or so, Casey, if you search my name and takeaway here on YouTube, we have like 5 or 6 really good, thorough. And another thorough one coming on Wednesday, Mary says. And there's a bunch of them that are on there. Troubleshooting your takeaway is a really good one. If you search my name and takeaway, you see like 5 or 6 really good ones. And there's another one more coming. But rolling during the takeaway could do with a couple things. Primarily, it's arm rotation. Now, that could be shoulder rotation, or that could be forearm rotation, right? So that could be shoulder rotation, or that could be forearm rotation. But if you're getting the club too far inside, you want to make sure you're not over rolling. You want to make sure that you're not turning too early. But really, it's a forearm or a lack of hinge thing. Meaning, if you wanted to get the club head more up and out on the backswing, you'd primarily do 2 things. One, you would rotate your forearms less. So like no forearm rotation would make my club head work up and out. So no forearm rotation kind of forever like this. And more hinge. the more I hinge the club, the more it's up and out. So I'd add hinge and take out forearm rotation. We have a video coming out this week. In those videos, you'll see you can put an object between your elbows, like a Tour Striker Smart Ball. There's a million different drills you can do. You can put the stick on the side of the club, like so. Put this on the side like this. Put this on the hip, and then ride that down your leg. Ride that down your leg. If you roll, that stick would come off. So if you roll, that'll come off. If you do it right, it'll ride down the leg. So something like that, and you'll see different drills. But like I said, if you search my name and takeaway, there's a lot on that. That's a simple thing to fix if you put time and energy into it. You know, the issue with you rolling, if that is an issue, people who roll too much, the two things that come is one, a lot of people who do that, the face is too open, like this, which causes problems, or two, it's equal and opposite. If this is a swing plane that I swing on like this, and I put a stick up this, the more under the plane I get early, the more over I'm going to get later. And usually the more over it I'm going to get under it. So there are reasons to fix the rolling takeaway. It's not always the worst thing in the world, but that's what I would do. Jeff, key for severe side hill lie, ball above feet. One, I'd say it's a hard shot. So keep expectations in check. Two, I'd be ultra conservative. The more the ball gets above the feet, the more conservative you should be with where you aim, ball pattern, make sure you miss on the right side. Sometimes you can't avoid severe lies. Sometimes you hit a stupid shot and that's why you're there, but sometimes it's just how the course is. So ball above the feet or below the feet or any kind of goofy lies, I'd always take more club than normal. I'd grip down, kind of get closer to the ball. I'd do all the conservative things I could do. Specifically, if there's a ball, say above my feet, ball above feet. So if the ball's above my feet, like up here, over here, and the loft is going to be more horizontal, that ball wants to shoot left, right? Because the loft of the face points to the left. So I would grip up, I'd play the ball back a little, I'd aim a little bit more to the right, and I would make my swing a little bit more kind of around, horizontal, versus up and down. Just because the ball's closer to me, you know, I might stand a little bit taller this way instead of being as bent over. So I'd go ball, kind of a little taller, ball back, gripping down, a little bit more around my body, and aim more right, assuming the draw pattern. I'd just be ultra conservative, and if I'm on a par 4 with that, just make sure I'm missing the right side and make par and get out of there. That's what I would do. Robbie, 56 or 60 out of the bunker. Either one's fine, personal preference. I myself have used both successfully. I've coached players who use 56 that are great, 60 that are great. So personal preference. You want to play around and see how much bounce is on the club too. That's going to affect a little bit how you play out of there, but very much personal preference. No right answer there. Eric, how much should the club move in your grip? Some areas of my glove have holes in them. I think the idea is to have the club really not move at all, right? So once you set your grip in your hands, wherever that's at, you more or less, depending upon where you do it, want to have that kind of maintain there the whole time. So I would say your goal would be not have that move at all. Jim, does the club go outside side in the takeaway and let the shoulders take over to take? Does the club go outside slightly on the takeaway? Well, it can go anywhere on the takeaway. Ideally, you'd want to go from setup to by the time it's parallel to the ground, it's right in line with your hands. If it's not perfectly right there, I'd prefer it to be slightly outside that plane. Again, if you imagine there's a plane or line drawn up that shaft through your belt buckle, I want to go ride right up that like Hideki, or be slightly outside of that, not inside of it, ideally. And then, and let the shoulders take over to the top. Yeah, I mean, let the shoulders take over is really a feel thing, right? So in reality, there's a lot of going on. It's not just that you would go here and then turn your shoulders and that's it. Now, if you feel that and that sets you up perfect, that's cool. In reality, there's a lot of micro going on. You're continuing hinge, there's arm rotation, there's tilts involved, there's turning, there's pellet. I mean, there's a lot of variables. But yeah, I mean, if you feel like, hey, I'm going to set my takeaway right here, and then I'm going to kind of maintain this and turn and tilt up to the top, and that gets you in a good spot, that's perfectly cool. Thanks, I'll watch again. Good. Jason, is 40 years old to start to playing golf, or have I missed the PGA Tour? I unfortunately think probably everyone on here today has missed the PGA Tour, but 40 years old, definitely not too late to start playing, but the PGA Tour days are probably gone. Hi, Eric, just bought new irons, Callaway Apex 2019, but the new club's got me hooking the ball. If this is an offset related issue, can you explain alignment on different type of offset clubs? Yeah, so basically just if you offset a club, it's kind of like the ball above the feet thing where Like the leading edge of the club can point in a certain direction, but the loft of the club can change it. So I don't have one of those little things here, but if you took one of those little pointy deals and I put this kind of where the loft of the club was, the more I add loft and make this point back, the more the loft goes left. The more I point it down, the more the loft goes to the right. So it's not just leading edge, like if I open the face, it goes to the right, or I close the face, it goes this way, but I can go back or forward, or if I kind of go above me, the loft points left. If I go below me, the loft points right. Just meaning if an offset and there's more loft, it more or less makes the loft of the club point more left relative to a swing direction, relative to a leading edge. That's kind of the deal there with that. Let's see. Any tips on how to improve my tempo? As I have a terrible habit of going fast and rushing my downswing. Yeah, lots of different ways. I mean, one of the tempo things we did, I mean, obviously there's different things you can do in terms of counting, right numbers in your head. 1, 2, 3, 25. You can do breathing techniques that help with that. Some of the things we used to do at training tempo would be, let's say you hit your 8-iron 150 with a full swing, do your 8-iron 140 with a full swing, 130, 120, 110, 100, 90, 80, all the way to 50. So on all these, you're making full swings and the ball's only going 50 yards. And then full swing, it's only going 60 yards. That inherently will teach you how to do the tempo from there. Then you can do some drills where you pause at the top. So you can hit some shots if you're too fast on the way down, where you just take away the transition. So you go up to the top like this, hang out 1, 2, 3, and then kind of slow down on the way down the way through. So those would be some things that I would look at. I think part 1 is recognize you go fast. Part 2 is being conscious about slowing it down. That's sort of how to trick yourself. I think another thing is to record yourself as you're doing it so you can see, wow, I felt like I was going a lot slower, and you record it, you're like, holy shit, I was still really, really fast. And then that can kind of scale your exaggerations. Let's see. Are the arms passive all the time? When do they activate? Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, define passive and define activate. So I think you could look at this like if we measured it, if we put little things on you 3D mechanically, the arms and hands are doing things always. Like literally, if I took my setup and my arms and hands weren't active, this would be my backswing. There'd be nothing. There'd be no motion, right? I can't swing a club with no arms and hands. Same thing on the way down. If I was at the top and there was no activity, I would just stay here. I'd do nothing. So if we measured it, obviously, yes, like the arms and hands are always doing something. I think what you really mean is like, are you feeling that? Are you trying to create it or activate it? And that's very much different per person. The same way, if you were at the top, let's say you're at the top and your left wrist is too cupped. Mary's at the top, her left wrist is too bowed, and I'm at the top, my left wrist is perfect. What I would tell you need to do compared to here is you got to bow more. Well, Mary's already too bowed, so she's got to cut more. And me, I'm already flat, so I got to stay flat. So what you need to feel is always relative to what you currently do. That's always going to be different. Some people need to feel more active with their arms and hands based on what they're doing. Some people less. Just all depends on where you're at there and what you're trying to do. There's no stock answer of like, hey, you need to feel your arms and hands do this. You need to feel them do this. It all depends on where you're coming from. If you're someone who has a weak grip and you make your downswing and your face is open, I'd say you need to activate your arms and hands a lot, bow it down and curl it. If you're Paul Azinger and your grip's like this and your face is super shut, I'd say you need to feel like they're completely passive and do a hold on release. So just really depends on what your pattern is. If I could see your swing, I could give you more specifics of what you should do depending upon your miss pattern, et cetera, but that would be a nice stock answer. Where are your eyes fixed on at address? So this one's a little bit different per person too. For me, I always liken where my eyes are, which is similar to driving. So when I'm driving down the street, I'm looking at the road ahead of me, but I'm not really looking at the road. Like I'm looking at it, but I'm like not really looking at any specifics. I'm just kind of, that's my field of vision. For me, when I do my setup, it's the same way. Like I'm looking at the ball, but I'm not really focused on it. I'm thinking about whatever else. So that would be me. Now, I've played in periods of times where I looked at a specific dimple, looked at the front of the ball, back of the ball, and that may have helped. Like for me to get present in the moment, I've gone through phases where I'd take my setup and I'd just look at just a dimple, one simple dimple, and I'd focus on that and my breathing, and I'd hit, and I could play really good when my mechanics were in a good spot. So I could say you could focus on a dimple, try that, see how that works. But most people, it's just kind of in the field of vision like driving. Thanks for all you do on YouTube. You're welcome. Have a problem of firing my right leg knee too soon at the target, left knee to the target / left knee in the downswing. How can I fix that problem? So I have a problem of firing my right knee too soon at the target. So if your right knee goes too far in, a couple different things you can do. Number one is going to really just be like how you feel the foot and the pressure of it. And then there's some drills. So if I take my normal setup position or my downswing, my right knee kicks this way too much here, right? Let's say it goes this way in some way, shape, or form. The first thing is going to be how you feel your foot interact with the ground. And so in terms of pressure in the feet, if I go up to the top, I want to feel like my right foot pushes down into the ground and kind of back behind me. So if my foot's at about 1 o'clock here, I'm pushing back towards like 5 o'clock, as if my foot's going to go this way on the way back. So I'm going like this, my foot's gripping the ground. I can feel my foot pushing and gripping against the ground. That activates my glute and my quad and here like this, and it makes me externally rotate my leg. So as I do that, that's the opposite of what you're talking about. What you're talking about, your knee kicking in, is internal rotation. The opposite of that would be external rotation. So as you work down, how you feel external rotation and why that would happen would be your right foot pushing clockwise. You can also have feels in terms of your kneecap. So if I go up to the top and I'm here like this, let's say my kneecap's pointed at 1 o'clock. As I start down, I'm going to feel like I try and point my kneecap towards 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. It doesn't actually happen, but it just keeps my knee out. So here's 1 o'clock. I'm going to feel like as I work down, I point my kneecap behind me. So it separates my legs. I can also put a bucket between my legs, right? A la like a George Gankis. I can do this, put this in here, underneath my legs, go up to the top, here like this, drop it in transition, keep my legs like that. I can, if I want to keep my foot down, if your foot pops up with it too, I can put a club underneath my foot like this, do some swings and feel like I keep my heel down and push this way in transition. We'll stop all that stuff. The issue with the knee working in too soon is that adds then secondary tilt. It makes my left hip work up, makes my body go back, and that's really hard to turn. So if I go in too early, really difficult to turn enough, usually low point issues, get underplaying on the downswing, things like that. So I'd start by getting the foot gripping the ground and pushing that way. Then you can add in some other drills and stuff like that on top. Let's see. Would you say, oops. Yeah, just my thing went. Would you say speed sticks are a good way to increase your club head speed? Absolutely. How effective would you think this is? I think it's extremely effective. I think that's the same way as me saying like, you know, good diet plan, like eating vegetables every day. Super effective, 100% works. Most people just don't do it because it's hard to be consistent with it. If you did the super speed set, as they say, let's say you took the next 12 months and you did the super speed set religiously like they tell you to in terms of the program, you would increase your speed 100% certainty, 100%. It's just hard to do it. It's just discipline. But for sure it works. I've done that with 1 million people. It worked every time. And I've done it myself. Dale, your wedge videos are outstanding and have changed my game. Thank you. You are very welcome, Dale. Thank you. Grant, if you just can't hit a cut iron, no matter what you do, you're too far under plane during the downswing. You're too far under plane. Coming from me, who I played golf for about a decade, pretty high level, whatever. But I drew and hooked every ball. I couldn't hit a fade if my life depended on it for like 5 years. I mean, nothing. Like if I tried to hit a fade, it was a big push cut thing that went nowhere. I couldn't hit a fade. And the primary reason was because I was too far under plane, which means I'm too far from inside to the ball and to the right. What you need to do is get back on plane. I could make you hit a fade in like 2 minutes in person by just making your comp plane work more high and outside. So like what you could start with, if you search my name and cure your hook, there's 3 drills in that video. One of them, there's a bucket behind with a stick in it. If I did with you in person, you'd be overplaying. You'd hit cuts in like 2 seconds, only because I'd push you far enough to exaggerate enough. For you, it's going to feel like, and without seeing, I mean, listen, there could be other things. You might have setup issues. Your grip could be off. Your face could be jacked up. You could have backswings. I don't know. But you net out to being too far under plane. 99% of the time I hear that, that's what it is. So you would start, and I would get you during the downswing. You would feel like you're swinging so far over the top. It's goofy. You can start with a simple bucket drill like this. Take my normal setup, put a bucket about halfway between my foot and the ball, front edge in line with my toes, and then I'm trying to get over this on the way down and start hitting little half ones which for you is going to feel like super over the top, and start with like a 9 or 8 iron. You're hitting little punch cuts. Make sure they start left and cut back. So you maybe put a stick in front, but you do that. And then what I do is make it harder and put a stick through like this, push it back a little bit, put a stick through like this and say, all right, dude, you're going to go like here, far enough where you don't hit it with your hands. And you're going to go here and keep the club on top of this. And you're going to be like, oh my God, it's so far over the top. I'm going to say, no, it's not. And you're going to hit little kind of like pull cut so you can press it good. So that's why that happens. That's how to fix it. Where should your sternum line be with a 7 iron at address? So if I took a normal setup position like so, your sternum location is going to really depend on your shoulder angles, meaning at address, if I close my shoulders to the target, my sternum will be more back. If I open, it'll be more forward. So from this angle, if I close my shoulders, you see how my little mic goes back? If I open my shoulders, it goes forward. So where your sternum is in space is primarily dictated by how much you are open or closed and tilts. So the more I tilt, the more back it is. The less I tilt, the more forward it is. That's probably just a light bulb moment for some people. Like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. So that's where your sternum is. In terms of a 7 or 8 iron straightforward, if I have neutral tilts and neutral alignment, so here would be my normal ball position under kind of left eye, left ear, between sternum and shirt logo, hands inside left thigh, my sternum location is basically straightforward. So my sternum location is basically straightforward. Now with a 7 or 8 iron, I only want to have like 2, 3, 4 degrees of tilt. If I had driver tilt, 7, 8, 9, 10, my sternum would be more back behind the ball. I'd have more tilt, but I don't have as much tilt with an iron, so it's more forward. And on both of them, I'm not closing or opening my shoulder. So I would say 12 o'clock straightforward with the sternum location should be just behind where the ball is. Ball should be just forward. See how I stand here? Here's my sternum. Here's my left eye, left ear. This is where your ball position would be, like right here. So it'll be a little bit behind it. George, when I move over pressure to the right foot, will there be a small slide in my body? I don't know what it'll feel like, George, because it depends on where you start from. But the main goal in terms of backswing, there will be a little bit of pelvis motion this way in reality as you're turning. What I'm looking for, if you look at good swings, if you drew a line up the right leg like this, when I start, when I make my backswing turn, I want to turn just inside that line. So I don't want to, let's say I put it about a little bit outside. I don't want to bump into it this way. I want to turn on that line or just create a little bit of space inside of that line that you start with. It's kind of the objective with the right hip. So no, there shouldn't really be a small slide. Jeff, what changes are needed to hit out of a fairway divot? So if the ball's in a divot, really the difference is you have to ensure ball first contact. So if you're hitting it super clean, the ball's in a tight line in a fairway, not much would have to change. Like if you're playing a tight fairway lie versus a divot lie, I think people try and do too much when they get in the divot because they think they need to change it. Where in fact, if you're hitting the ball first, it shouldn't matter all that much. The variable you would want to control, if here's the ball, here's my club, if there's anything in my way, maybe it's a divot, so I can't make sure I can't hit the ground first, or grass, the one thing I may do is steepen my angle of attack a little bit to ensure that I do hit the ball first, similar to like a fairway bunker. I want to hit the ball first, so I might steep my angle of attack. The main thing I would do to do that is move the ball back. So if I took my normal setup and the ball's here, and this is my angle of attack 4 degrees down, and I move the ball back to here, now my angle of attack is probably 6, 7, 8 degrees down. So if I was in a divot, I wouldn't do much. Sometimes I'm in a divot and I don't do anything. I just hit it normal. So if I take my normal setup, I was going to do anything, I'd put it a little farther back, I'd grip down about an inch, I'd take one more club than normal, and I'd go to about shoulder, shoulder, and maybe feel like the club hits down a little bit more vertically, anticipating I'm going to hit a little bit lower shot and kind of play for that in terms of club selection and swing length. My best shots happen when I feel like I keep my lead shoulder behind the ball through contact. What do you think is the reason for this? Probably because when you normally go, your lead shoulder goes too far forward of the ball too soon, and or maybe your head moves too far forward. So if here's the ball, left eye, left ear, like this, and I go back with a good turn, and then I go too far forward with my upper body, usually I'm going to be too steep, or I'll stand up out of that to react to it. So if I start here and feel like my head stays back behind it in early transition, right? So I go full 90-degree turn here, and then I maintain some of that width, keep my chest turned back just for the first like 2 feet to here, and then I fire through from there with my chest. Probably you open too soon, or your head moved too forward would be what I would guess. Some people, maybe I got to do a better job of explaining it. When we do our rotate chest and shoulder videos, and I'm saying, hey, you guys got to rotate a lot from the top, take that kind of, I guess, too literal, which means I got to explain it better. When you go up from here like this, and the reason I say it like that is because a lot of people come in like, hey, I'm supposed to keep my shoulders closed forever, and that's not what good players do. They open their rib cage and torso a lot. In reality, what happens is I go full turn back, assuming full turn. From here, I'm 90 degrees turned at the top. By the time I get down to left arm parallel, I'm still only 45, meaning I don't rip right open from the top. I really, from here, keep width and stay back for a minute. And then from about here through, because I can keep my width here, then I can rotate my chest and everything. If I go here like this and open up too soon, I get too narrow with my arms and hands in transition, which cause issues later. So that would be my guess without seeing it. But that's probably usual. Let's see. Will I hit better shots with my 5 through pitching wedge, ball inside right foot, 3-wood at sternum? Could you hit 5-iron from back foot, please? Will I hit better shots with my 5 through pitching wedge, ball inside right foot with 3-wood at sternum? If you're a right-handed golfer, I would suggest as a stock model to put the ball off your left eye, left ear, or somewhere between sternum and shirt logo for the majority of your shots. And then by the time you work the driver, I'd get more off armpit, or at least forward of logo, armpit, shoulder, somewhere in here would be my recommendation for a stock shot. Can I hit a 5-iron from my back foot? You could, but I wouldn't. Specifically, the more the back you go with the ball, the more down you're going to hit and or the more right you're going to hit. You can do that if you wanted to play like a big swing right, push draw, like huge hook, but then you're super one-dimensional. But you could do that. I wouldn't suggest it, but it's doable. Rob, how does reducing dynamic loft affect apex? Lower loft, lower apex. Is lower launch angle offset by increased spin rate produced due to better compression? Is lower launch angle offset? No, I would say for most, like now some, it depends, of course. Like I can launch the ball lower. Dynamic loft is going to affect the spin loft. So the take home is the lower the loft, the lower the launch, as you mentioned. Most people, the lower the launch, the lower the apex as well. Most people, higher dynamic loft, higher launch, higher apex. Of course, there's some different scenarios where I can lower the dynamic loft, launch it lower, have more spin, and so it nets out higher and falls more vertically. I can have people with more loft like this here, launch it higher, lower spin, doesn't apex as much, and then the landing angle is different. But the kind of simple version of that take home is lower dynamic loft, lower launch, lower apex usually. But if you do add more spin, the peak height or the apex will be a little bit more vertical. That'd be something that would work with a fitter for driver kind of specifically, and landing angle with your irons if you're kind of at a higher level relative to your club head speed. Let's see. Happy Labor Day. Hello, thank you. I've been having trouble this season with greenside chipping, particularly to shorter targets and out of thicker lies. What is your preferred club and method that you teach? So chipping is really lie dependent, but I would say across the board, the thicker the rough, the shorter the shot, all those sort of things. I'd go with a high lofted club, like a 56 or 60 degree. I would want to learn how to use the bounce. I would make sure I open the face enough on all of those. So if I had like a thick rough lie and I was close to the green, of course it depends on the specifics of the lie and how far I have and et cetera, et cetera. But if I was that close, I definitely would use a lot of loft. I definitely would open the face a bunch. We got caught in a rainstorm earlier, so my grips are a little wet. But I would make sure I open the face enough, probably here, something like this. So I'd have the face pretty open, like so. I'd keep the shaft probably pretty neutral. I'd learn how to get this back part of the club thudding the ground, and I'd make a swing that's long enough with enough speed for the ball to still carry. And then from there, I'd have to kind of see what you do as to why you might have issues with that. Sort of bunkerish type shot pattern. Really depends on the lie, depends on the grass, and there's a lot of different ways to do it, but that's how I would start that pattern out of the rough. Real question is, when are you coming to Australia? What's up, man? Can't blame him blow for asking and nagging. Yeah, Australia is a long flight for me, but maybe Never say never. We're going to start our traveling process this winter. So maybe next year, the year after, we'll feel a little more aggressive and be out that way. Yeah. If we could maybe boat our way there. Hello. What's up, guys? What's up, Matt? Dennis, working on your wedge system, what is a reasonably priced device that will show distances hit? The TrackMan is a little expensive. I think you can do like normal golf balls on the course would be nice. We did get a, what was the thing we just got? Swing caddy, which we didn't have time at this point in time, just everything that's going on to kind of use and do. But that's an option that I think was like a middle price thing, the swing caddy. I think you have like a 200 and a 300 or like two different versions. So that might be something to do. There's different flight scope versions. You can get some stuff that aren't super expensive. I didn't have time to check out the swing caddy, but that was something that they were nice enough to send. That might be an option as well. Or on course, you can't, or at night, if you can put a couple poles out in the range or something, would work. Let's see, Drake. I think that's the real Drake. Right to be a minority, but how do you see golf surviving as the main group who plays it getting poor and less in number? Yeah, I think that's an ongoing struggle. That's golf and or just general economy. That's an issue for us in America. So I think that's not golf specific. I think anything that costs more money to get into is difficult to grow, right, relative to the current audience that it is. But that's similar to like like Lamborghinis. Like you're not going to grow the audience of people that much that are going to buy Lamborghinis. They just need to sell enough at a certain price point. Golf is just expensive relative to going to play basketball or football or tennis or baseball. I never paid anything to play any of those sports growing up. So yeah, of course that's a problem, like anything else. What's the solution to it? I don't know if there is a solution to it, or at least off the top of my head. Finding ways to play that don't cost as much and getting people and kids access to course. But I think it's an uphill battle for sure. Matt, is it bad to push off your right foot in the downswing? No, I'd say you typically want to not push off immediately, but it all depends on who you're talking to. Like ideally, as you start to push down, I'd prefer the push to happen halfway through more, to push the pelvis forward a little bit later. The issue with pushing too far forward is getting your left hip too high too soon, having too much tilt. Now that's like a higher level player problem. That's like a really good ball striker problem. So some people maybe get stuck on their back foot, might have to feel like they push earlier, but I'd say the stock answer would be get up to the top, get yourself about halfway down, going down and forward and turning, and then start to push off of that sucker a little bit later. And you're using the push, right, to kick your belt buckle forward, push off your right leg, get your pelvis forward, the extension piece into the follow through. So there's definitely a push. The question is how soon. I don't really roll off my right foot like a lot of pros. Look more like JT is this bad. It's not necessarily bad. I mean, JT, right? So he makes it work. I think it depends on your patterns, though. JT makes that work with a more vertical arm. That's part of how he shallows the club out and gets his arm back down. So it all depends. If your foot comes off early and that makes your knee kick in and your pelvis kick in and your chest get farther and you have an early extension pattern, that then is an issue because as you get farther from the ground, you have to lengthen your arm, lengthen your wrist. You're going to have contact issues, probably swing direction issues, probably heel or toe issues, and probably face control issues, honestly. That's a tough pattern. I mean, I've had that for sure, where the foot comes up, the knee kicks in, the pelvis kicks in, the chest gets farther, and this goes this way. And then it's a lot of timing involved with all that. If you search my name in right foot or footwork, you'll see some drills and thoughts. And earlier in the video about the right foot, the guy asked about the knee kicking in. If you did want to fix that, those drills I mentioned earlier in the video would be kind of where I'd start with that. Chad, what are some faults to look for when you top the ball and hit it fat? I seem to have no control or consistency. A good drill for fixing that. Unfortunately, Chad, that's too big of a question for me to answer with specifics. If you top and hit fat shots, you have low point or arc height issues. If I could see a video of your swing, Chad, I could give you specifics of how to do that really easily. So my best advice to you would be to pay the $39. Check out Cogorno Golf as a premium member, post your swings in the Facebook group, and then I can help you from there. There's just too many things that could be causing that. At that point, if you're having those sort of contact issues, you want to build a good foundation anyway. So yeah, I would check that out or get with a coach locally that could actually see that. There's just too many variables there. Hello. Thank you. Grant, thanks. Probably why straight shots feel super over the top. Dude, 100%. When I used to play, and I didn't know then, but I know now, so I used to play golf in tournaments. I'd hit big like draws or hooks. I couldn't hit a fade to save my life. And so on the downswing, when I'd feel like I was super over, like anytime I was on the course and I had to hit a cut around a tree or I wanted to try and hit a fade, I'd feel this downswing and it would feel so far over the top and I hit the freaking best shots of the day, but they'd go dead straight. And so my big slice swing feel just was nutted perfect. Now, I didn't know enough then about like, oh, that means I'm too far inside out, or I didn't put two and two together. Looking back upon it now, it's blatantly obvious, but that's exactly why you get that grant. That's exactly how you fix it. Those drills in there guaranteed would fix that. You just have to set them up properly and exaggerate enough. Best drill to overcome losing my posture standing up in the through swing. So there's a bunch of early extension masterclass for you would be perfect. I think that's $70, 60, $70. It's on the Podia link up there. It's like probably 20 videos. It's really thorough, in depth, goes through all of it. That's going to be way better than what I can answer in a minute. It's going to cost you some money, but that really guides you through all the whys. Part of it depends on why you're standing up in the first place. But if you have this pattern, what can you do to get out of that? There's a lot. You would feel the pressure work more in towards your left heel, feel your left hip work back around, feel your belt buckle work back, feel your chest and upper body work down, feel your right shoulder work down as you turn, feel your head working down and forward, lowering and shortening your trail arm and trail wrist. Now, if you do all that without video, you're fighting a huge uphill battle. You're flipping a coin at best. Because what happens when you really extend this way is to go from, let's say you stand up 3 inches during your downswing, and you want to just swing perfect. To go from 3 inches standing up to perfect, you have to feel like you go down 30 feet. I mean, you have to exaggerate that so much. It's going to feel so ridiculous. You got to feel like your face is going to kiss the ground as you're rotating. And unless you video it, you just won't believe it. So you have to video that. I would buy the early extension. It explains that in detail. But you got to feel those things hard. If you search my name and early extension on YouTube, you'll see some videos on that, which that might help. Because I think we posted 4 or 5 that week alone. And there's other early extension videos that can help that too. Feeling the shaft lower and the hands lower. But you have to exaggerate big time for that one. Darren, my right arm is in internal rotation throughout the swing, trying to change to external rotation on downswing. Have you got any drills or feels to help work on that? Yeah, if you search my name and internal external rotation, I kind of explain that part as you go. Now, let's say if you're on the way back, your shoulders internally rotated the whole way like this, and you want to get into external rotation in transition. There's different ways to do that. You could train the external rotation in directly, or you could really look at, hey, why from here, if I'm this way, doesn't that happen by itself? Why am I staying here like this? And there could be some things like you pulling the shaft, there could be some face issues, narrowness, whatever. But I would say one thing you could do is from here like this to the top, if I want to go here and actually rotate, just in terms of theory here or feels, I want to feel like I squeeze my elbows together. From there would be one feel. I can put a ball, like a tour shaker ball between here, not so much for getting rid of this, but squeezing the ball together in transition, squeezing my elbows together. I'm not the biggest fan of trying to get the elbow in front of the hip type of feel, because usually that leads to this, not this, which is what external rotation is. So I'd say the elbows getting closer together would be one feel like that. You can do things where you take your right arm, put it behind your left elbow, go up to the top like this, and then push forward on your right elbow, and you'll kind of feel a little tightness in your trail shoulder as you do that, just to kind of get some feels from that. So those would be some things I would start with. If you wanted to keep it in going back and then get it more this way and train it directly, those things, or look at why do I do this and why doesn't it happen automatically? How does my body motions work and my hands on the club? George, thank you. You are very welcome. Any drills for too much hinge at top of the backswing? Yeah, I would buy a swing guide, those yellow swing guides, and pop it on the club and put it where you hit yourself once you get to 90. That'd be the easiest thing to give yourself feedback, record it so you can actually see. Of course, the answer to all these questions is do the opposite. So if you say, hey, let's say I have too much hinge at the top. How do I fix that? I'd say, well, you need less hinge. All right, Eric, how do I do less hinge? You need to feel as though you hinge less during the backswing. The question's how much, when, whatever. Well, if you have too much hinge, you got to feel big time the opposite. If you're someone who goes up like this and you're like too much here, you got to feel like you're like this, just like stupid, like Steve Stricker, just unhinged almost all the way up. So feeling like your thumbs are kind of up and back, like you literally never hinge this way, almost like this. So you're like 100 and whatever degrees instead of this way. And when you feel this, you'll look perfect. That's what you need video though. Again, exaggerations too. There's no trick there. You have to feel really big in the opposite way to find middle, but a swing guide could be something that can help. Two cup, yeah, your wrist that gets two cup goes along with the hinge. The more you hinge your left wrist, the more it cups automatically. The more you unhinge, the more it goes flat automatically. So during the backswing, the more hinge you have, it's naturally gonna cup. If I got rid of that hinge, my left wrist gets flat automatically. You see that? Here, here. That's just from hinge. So the more you hinge, it'll cup. So meaning if you unhinge it or feel less hinge on the way back, it'll flatten out by itself, or vice versa. Okay, I answered that last part. Rob, for some reason, my practice swing is way faster than my actual swing. Have you seen this before? I've seen, yeah, I think practice swings relative to actual swings are completely irrelevant. No one's real swings like their practice swing. Anyone ever in my whole life have I seen. Do you think this is mostly due to tension or posture? Any advice to get my real swing speed up? Yeah, I would pay no attention to your practice swing. I would record your actual swing. And if you want to swing faster, I would start by swinging faster. I would then record it, or I would check it with a monitor and actually track your club head speed so you're not guessing. And if you swing as fast as you can, it's 65 miles an hour, swing faster and try and get it to 70. And I mean literally just swing faster, like recruit everything you can to swing fast. Don't worry about how you hit it. You can't be working on swinging faster and hitting perfect shots at the same time. It don't work that way. So if you want to swing faster, I'd start by swinging faster. If you try and swing faster, that doesn't always necessarily mean more speed, sometimes just more effort. Then there could be pieces that would go in to make you swing faster in terms of efficiency automatically. I'd have to see your swing, Rob, to say why. That I'd look at things like, hey, do you have enough turn on the way back and on the way through? Do you have enough pressure shift? What do your tilts look like? Et cetera, et cetera. But that's what I would start with. Measure it, how fast do you actually swing, increase it, and then go from there. And I would pay no attention to your practice swings. I think practice swings are irrelevant. Jeff, I hear the term exit left on the downswing. What does it mean? So it just means exiting around your body or to the left on the follow through. When you swing a club, the reality is you swing a club on kind of a circle motion or a plane around your body. So the club head here works up and in, down and out, up and in. So that's just the left part. The club head doesn't work up and in, down and out, up and out. It works up and in, down and out to the ball, up and back into the left. So that just means exiting around your body on that normal circle. If you're someone who exits too far to the right or vertical, you need to feel more left or lower. If you're someone who's too far low left, you might have to feel more up and to the right, but that's what that means. If you search my name in perfect follow through, I go through what we just talked about in more detail, Jeff. Perfect follow through. Who's the best swing on tour? Okay, who has the best swing on tour in your opinion? I think there's a lot of really good ones. I mean, I really like Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy's really solid, Xander Schauffele's really solid in terms of ball striking. I would prefer that more classic kind of traditional motion. It's hard to argue with a Brooks Koepka or Dustin Johnson type of model. Victor Hovland's got a really good move with his club face alignment and his pivot. Colin, the kid from that won on tour from Cal or Stanford, he's got a lot of really good moves in his swing too. If I had to pick a swing, I mean, I really like Xander Schauffele's swing. Tommy Fleetwood. I mean, dude, a lot of the tour guys have such good moves that it's kind of hard to say. But yeah, that's who I'd look at. Let's see. And Adam Scott, obviously. Hideki I like too, except for the pause. Help. Any drills to correct inside over the top swing? Yeah, so if you mean inside on the way back and over the top this way, essentially you have to reverse the loop. And so those things aren't typically mutually exclusive, meaning when you go inside early, that's why you get over the top. I would make sure your face is square enough. Always you're gonna wanna come over the top if your face is too open. So I'd nix that first. And then you wanna reverse the loop, right? So now you could do that two different ways. You could say, okay, I'm gonna leave my inside takeaway and just fix my downswing. Or you could just completely change the loop. Usually what I do for that is I'd start with a practice station. If you search my name and best drill I've ever seen, search my name and only 3 drills you'll ever need, super YouTube titles. And basically what I'd do is I'd put an object in your way behind you. So I'd take this, I'd put a range bucket in, and I would go like this and stick a club. And if you search those videos, they'll show you how to do this. and I'd put this object in, and I'd learn how to swing underneath it on the way down. I'd put the club down my toe line. I want that stick to be 2 to 3 inches above it is what I would prefer, kind of the top part of it, about 2 to 3 inches above it. So I'll go a little lower there, something like that would be what I prefer. And then I want you to learn, you're gonna still be inside on the way back, but this will teach you to come inside on the way down and learn how to start hitting some little half ones with that ball inside of that, just to reverse your pattern. If you wanna fix your backswing, you can do the same drill, go slow or put a noodle on. You can go over, under, right? So I can go, okay, I'm gonna go over it on the way back, under it on the way down, and just kind of slowly start to do some reverse loop patterns. Reversing the loop would be more of a fixing everything. It'll probably feel goofy in the beginning. You gotta go real slow with that, and probably put a noodle or something over it, but that's how you fix that. George, I can hit my forehand up to 200. How long should I hit my driver? Right now, it's only going like 210, 220. Yeah, that's way too short if you hit your forehand 200. I hit my forehand like 210, 215, and I hit my driver like 300, 285 to 315, depending upon the day and whatever. So that's a ridiculously small gap between your forehand and your driver. Either that's like the best 4-iron like you've ever hit in your life, or like that driver, there's something jacked up with your driver. Now that could be you, that could mean you, how you deliver it. Maybe you hit really far down and that kills your distance. Maybe you spin the ball a lot. Maybe your shaft's really bad for you. George, what I would do is I would get a club fitting, confirm that that's correct. And then if it's you, if it's technique, then I'd have to see your swing to say, hey, why, how? I'd be looking at things like your let's say you get a club thing and the guy's like, hey, these clubs are perfect for you. You are hitting your forehand 200. You are hitting your driver 220. Then for sure it's technique. You're hitting too far down. Your ball's spinning too much. Something along those lines. I would be making sure my swing direction's more right, et cetera, et cetera. Because you can hit down and stuff like that with your iron. It's so compressed and hit it far enough. You have enough club head speed. So that's way too short of a gap. I'd have to see your swing to say for sure. And I'd also get those clubs checked. How can I make sure my left hand is not hinged or cupped on the top of backswing and make sure it's flat? So the best thing to do would be record yourself, because you can do that just by recording yourself. If you make a backswing and you go up, you're like, oh man, that's cupped and I didn't realize it, and I need to make it look flat. That means you got to feel like it's bowed this way. And so how do you do that? Well, start early, start bowing it early. And then you're like, oh my God, that's still cupped. All right, do the same thing, bow it more, exaggerate it. And then you're gonna say, oh, that feels weird. You know, I don't like that. Well, it doesn't matter, right? All that matters is what you feel, or all that matters is you actually get to the right spot at the top. It's gonna feel goofy and exaggerated, you know, whatever. So that's what you have to do, is record it, exaggerate, etc. There's some other variables about your grip and how much you hinge, whatever. You could also do a drill thing, like, right? So if you wanted to kind of have more feedback from that, you could put this like a hanger in, right? Like this, and put a hanger on the side of the club. You search my name and favorite compression drill or flat left wrist, stuff like that. And you put this in and learn how to crank this. So you set it up like this on the side, put this right here. And when I go up, I want to get that hanger on my left wrist. If I cup it too much, you see how the hanger pops off? Hanger on, hanger off, like this. So you set up with the hanger on the side. I like to just put it on my left wrist. Keep it flat up to the top, not cupped. So you can do a drill like that. If you search online for flat left wrist, you'll see a million different drills. The reality though is like, you got to just pop a video on and exaggerate enough and get it to that point like that. You know what I mean? Like that's the real answer. Ron, thank you for all the tips. You're welcome. Been seeing great results since following you. Hit my 6-iron 195 carry. Driver 265 carry. How far should I be hitting my wedges as a stock shot? I would say under that. Your 6-iron 195 is pretty long as a carry, and your driver 265 is then kind of short. So like my 6-iron, I carry my 6-iron like 190, and I carry my driver like 285, 290 under normal, like when I'm hitting it good. So either that means to me then you're not optimizing your driver, which maybe you don't. I mean, if you're carrying your driver 265, it's rolling out 285, 290, whatever, that could be plenty. But that to me, there's a bit too big of a gap there. How far do you hit your wedges? I hit my sand wedge, my 56-degree sand wedge, 110. My driver club head speed's like 112 to 114, kind of on average. So I think from there you should be hitting your sand wedge probably close to 100, 110, 105, whatever, depending upon your loft. I have a 56-degree, depending on 54, whatever. But I would expect your pitching, if your 6-iron goes 195, your pitching wedge should be going 140 kind of without a problem, which means your gap wedge should be 120, 130, and then your sandwich probably 105, 110, 115, something like that would be kind of stock. Matt, how do you get the hands ahead of the ball feeling or overdo it to get the proper feeling? Always had the problem of hitting at the ball. So Matt, there might be some different things within that one question, but how do you get the hands forward and compress it? I'm not gonna be able to cover all that in the next like 30 seconds. I would search my name in compression, search my name in shaft lean, search my name hitting your iron solid. You watch all those videos a lot there. If you wanna get the handle forward, first things first, you have to make sure the club face is in order. We did a video a week ago or so about that, getting the club face tilted down. You have to make sure your club face is in order. You need a good swing direction. You need good body pivots. You need a lot for that. You know, in terms of how you train it, you can do stuff like just doing impact positions where you start here, hands inside left thigh, press them a little more forward as you open, feel what that feels like, hit little half ones, trying to get back into that same spot. But the real answer, to your question is you got to find out why it's not forward in the first place. Is it because your face is too open? Are you too steep? Do you have a body pivot issue? Is it a setup thing? There could be too many reasons why. So yeah, if I could see your swing, man, if you want to check out Cogorno Golf, if I could see it, I could say why that all is. But if you want to start that process, you can do that. You can also do some things like my favorite compression drill, put the hanger on the side like this, get halfway back and start kind of curling that thing under depending upon your grip pattern, pressing that thing into your left wrist. You can put the stick on the club. So you can go like this too if you want. You can put a stick on the side, take your setup, have it on your left hip, make some swings, learn how to hit shots without hitting yourself from there and feel what it feels like to get the handle forward, any of those little drills. But really what you want to do is watch those other videos and find out how you got to match all that stuff. But if you search my name and kind of solid shots, compression, stuff like that, that'll go through that. James, what should I get fitted for first, wedges, irons, or driver? I think the driver makes the biggest difference in terms of fitting. I would do the wedges last. I do driver first and iron second. Michael, drive is okay, but my irons are now pulling left 80% of the time. I have a fairly strong grip, and I try to keep my left wrist flat through impact. Can't figure it out yet. Well, Michael, the issue is you feeling like you're keeping your wrist flat doesn't mean anything. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, right? Your swing direction could be too far to the left. Your face could be too far to the left. If you're pulling them and they're kind of straight left, that is indicative of a swing direction that's a little bit too far to the left. That could also just mean you're aimed a little left. Maybe the ball position's a little too far forward. Maybe your face is just a little bit closed. But if the ball's not curving and they're just straight pulls, then your swing direction's a little bit too far this way. You want to do something like I said before in terms of kicking your swing direction a little more to the right. If you search my name and best drill I've ever seen, or the only 3 drills you ever need, and put one of these swing direction stations in, and get the club head working from kind of lower and inside, right? So you're going to do one of these, and just to get a sense of swing direction, if you're pulling them straight left, no curve, you want to feel like the club head's working a little bit lower and more inside to get the ball back on target. Again, without seeing any other variables. It could be something as simple as aim or ball position, but in general, swing direction. How much lower dynamic loft is ideal at setup? I like to see the hands inside left thigh, which to me dictates what the loft looks like. So if you take your setup, regardless of club, and the leading edge is straight at the target, I like hands inside left thigh for all clubs. So face square, hands inside left thigh, that's what your dynamic loft will be set at. I don't want the hands more forward or more back of that. That would change the loft. So that's how I would find the solution to that answer. Andy, how would you deal with limited flexibility in the golf turn? Would you still try keeping the left arm straight and shorten the backswing? How would you create power in a shortened swing? I would say, Andy, a lot of people who think they can't turn enough because of flexibility actually could turn more. Maybe meaning like 90% of people who say it to me in person, I can get them to turn more. It's less about flexibility. It's more about learning how to move correctly, learning how to use your lower body to turn enough, using tilts, using pressure in your feet to create bigger turn. Most all people who can't keep the left arm straight can't do it, like you said, because they don't turn enough. And if I turned enough, then I could create more width. So if you now, assuming you're the 10% that I think from a flexibility perspective couldn't turn enough, you might try things like in our senior master class where you get the feet a little bit to the right? You close the stance line off, work it inside, and just don't worry about the turn on the way through as much and kick your swing direction. So yeah, you can just keep it shorter. What would I do? I wouldn't do much, right? I would just, if you just want to go shorter and you can't turn enough, then stay shorter from here. Make sure you get a little bit of depth in there with that. And that's fine. I mean, that's fine. You can play that way. I don't think you got to change much for that. But I think most people can turn more than they think. Okay, we have like 30 seconds. I'm going to roll through some here. What is movement when you start your downswing before backswing finished? What is movement when you start your, I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you search my name in transition, 3 best transition drills, I talk about that. Rob, could you discuss your views on protecting the spine and effects of left and right side bend on the spine? What swing change did Tiger make to maximize strain? Unfortunately, because we just hit the 1 minute mark, I'm trying to fly through these. I can't talk about that, Rob, but I'd be more than happy to talk about that at a separate time or a separate conversation. I think golf inherently is not good for your back, no matter what you do, right? Like you drive a car 200 miles an hour on a highway, it's just not safe. It doesn't matter if you wear a helmet or whatever, like it's just not safe. It doesn't matter if there's a car on the road. So I think golf, from all of the people that I've talked with, not great for your back no matter what. Maybe there's ways to make it better or worse. I think side bending at 100 miles an hour is difficult. So I can't talk about all that at the minute mark, but I'm glad to at a different time. Imagine you've hit a ball. Imagine you haven't hit a ball in a couple months and you're just too busy posing for calendar shoots. You have 2 sessions, 90 minutes each to prepare for a round. What's your plan? My big picture plan is have absolutely zero expectation for the round and just enjoy the time. I would putt. I do a bunch of short distance putting. I do speed control with my putting. I would chip, make sure I have solid contact and do landing zones. I'd rehearse my wedge distances once, and then I'd hit balls and just try and create a ball pattern. Wouldn't care if it's draw, fade, high, low, whatever, just ball pattern. Do that in that order. Short distance putting, speed control, chipping landing zones, wedge distances, ball pattern. Hi, Eric. Really like how you managed to make us understand difference between feel and real. I like that too. I'm glad you like that. It's necessary. Who has the worst? Who has the worst swing on tour? Mechanically speaking, Mickelson's swing's pretty brutal, but he's a great player. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Having problems controlling club face. My right thumb, lefty, always makes the club turn at the top when I initiate the downswing. Any simple drills? No simple drills right now within the 15 seconds I'm gonna take to fix that. No, I do not, sorry. When I see Victor Hovland swing, it looks like he is very inside on the way back and more outgoing impact. I thought it would be the other way around, just curious. Yeah, I think his swing's excellent the whole way through. I don't think he's too far in, out, up, down, etc. I think he's beautiful. What feels do you have with the flop shot? Open the face a lot, swing long, open the face more on the way back, throw it early, finish with the club very vertical and close to you. If you watch our wedge videos or our bunker videos, I talk about that more in terms of changing trajectories. What are your best tips for proper aiming? Practice it, put a line down on the range, and then learn how to pick intermediate targets when you go on the course. How short is too short of a swing? I think that's very, I don't think there's a stock answer to that. Most good golfers at the top who hit it good, I'm looking for the lead arm to be, if this is a 90-degree angle like this, 40 to 45 degrees would be stock. So if you're like left arm parallel, it's pretty short. So, okay, sorry for those of you at the end there. I want to rapid fire this just to kind of wrap up at the hour mark. Hopefully everyone had a good weekend, good Labor Day weekend. We'll be back just again next Monday. If I said to you guys about posting your swings, check out CogornoGolf.com. It's where you can post things up. Check out the Podia link I mentioned above there for the master classes too. Much more thorough step-by-step guided learning in those master classes for some of those issues. So if you guys haven't checked that out, check out the master classes. They're like 40, 50, 60 bucks a pop. Super, super good. So hope everyone had fun. We'll see you guys next Monday.